All right, so now we're going to add the edit modal, which is right now is going to be almost identical to the add modal that we created in the last video. So let's actually copy everything that's in add log modal, and let's create a new file here called edit log modal.js. So in here, I'm just going to paste this in, and then let's change the title here to edit log modal. As far as the initial state, that's all going to be the same. For the submit, we'll keep that the same. One thing, what I want to do with both of these modals is clear the fields after we enter. Even though the modal closes, let's go ahead and clear the fields. So under the if else here, I guess we'll do it in the else. So we'll say clear fields, and we'll just set message to nothing. We'll set tech to nothing, and let's set attention to false, which is its default value. And we want to do this in the add modal too, so we'll just go here and do the same thing. Okay, so in this edit, let's see, we got to make sure we change the ID here to edit log modal so that it opens at the correct time. We'll keep all this stuff. Yeah, like I said, for right now, this is going to stay the same, but it's going to change later on when we actually are editing it and we need to add the fields and stuff. And that's when we'll be dealing with Redux. So let's see, down here, let's just change this to edit log modal. And I think that should do it for now. So let's close that up and let's add it to app.js. I'll just copy this down and let's say edit log modal. And we'll go ahead and add that down here like that and save. Now we should be able to click on one of these, and there we go. We get the edit modal that opens, which right now just looks exactly like the add modal. So now we'll move on to the other modals, which one is to add a technician. So let's create a new file. Let's create a new folder actually under components called techs. Okay, anything to do with the techs. And then we're going to have a file here called add tech modal.js. And this is going to be very similar to our other modal, so I guess we could just copy one of these. Let's copy the add log modal and paste that in. And we're going to bring in the same stuff up here. Let's change the name of this to add tech modal. Now, of course, we have different fields, so we're going to have first name and last name. So first name, and then we'll change this right here, this function to set first name, and these are going to be blank by default. This will be set last name, and this will be last name. Let's use camel case here. Okay, now in the on submit, we're going to do the same kind of check. Let's check for first name and last name. And if they don't enter that, then we'll say please enter the first and last name. And then the console log, we'll just go ahead and log first name and last name. And then we'll clear the fields, so we'll call set first name and set last name, and then we don't need this. All right, now for the form, or for the return down here, the markup, let's call this tech modal, tech-modal. I believe that's what we called it. If we look at the add button and we go, let's see, right here, it's calling tech modal. You know what, let's call it add tech modal. That makes a little bit more sense. So we'll call it add tech modal there, and we'll add that here as well. So class name, that can stay the same. I don't believe we need it as big. We don't need to make it larger, so we don't need the style, so we can get rid of this down here. The main reason we needed it on with the other modal is because of the select list, because that can grow quite large if you add a lot of text. Let's see, so the title here, the H4, let's say new technician, and we're going to have a field here for the first name. So let's change this and that and that. I'm just doing Control D here to first name. Okay, so the name, the value, and then the name of the on change. And then here, let's change, let's see, HTML for first name, and then we'll change this to first name. And then last name is going to be very similar, so I'm just going to copy this row. And let's replace, we'll go ahead and get rid of this row and this row. And then we can just paste this one in. So we just have our first name, and then let's change this to last name. So I'll highlight this, Control D, again, and change all those to last name. And let's change this to last name. Okay, so let's see, for the footer, that can stay the same. And then down here, we're just going to change this to add tech modal. All right, so let's see if that works. If we go back and we click on this button right here, it's not opening. Let's see what we're getting here. Cannot read M modal of null. Okay, so let's see what we're doing wrong. Div ID is add tech modal. We have a class name of modal. Oh, we didn't embed it. We got to go to app.js and embed it. So this will be in text / add tech modal. Okay, and then we'll just put this down here. All right. So now it should work, or not. Set first name is not defined. Set last name is not defined. Const first name. Set first name. Set last name. Set. Oh, this should be an uppercase F here, and this should be an uppercase L. Okay, so now let's try it again, and we get our new technician form where we just added first name and last name. All right, cool. So now what we want to do is we want to do this button, which is going to be a modal that opens up and just shows the available text. So let's work on that. So we'll go to text, and we're going to actually have two different components here. So one is going to be let's see, one is going to be tech list modal.js, and then we're also going to have tech item.js, because each one will be its own component, just like with the logs we have the log item. So let's go to tech list modal, and I think what I'm going to do is the same thing I did with logs, is just fetch it from the back end from the component for now. And then we're going to move to Redux very soon, I believe, in the next section in the next video. So if we can get this all done right now. So just like we did in logs, in fact, you know what I'll do is just copy logs and go to tech list modal, because we're going to need to do the same type of stuff up here. We're going to bring in use state, use effect. We're going to bring in, Well, I guess we don't need to bring in tech item just yet. I'm not going to use a preloader because using the preloader within the modal is just, I don't know, it looks kind of weird. So let's see, right here we're going to have, instead of logs, we're going to have text. And of course we need to change this here to tech list modal. And then this is going to be set text. And we'll do the loading as well. And let's see, in our use effect, we're going to call get text, which we'll create in a second. And yeah, we're going to change this to get text. So this is going to run right when the component mounts. So we'll set loading to true. We'll make our request, instead of to logs, it's going to be to /text. We'll get our data, and then we'll set the text to that data, and then set loading to false. And let's go down here. And we are going to use a collection, although remember, this is a modal, so it's going to be a little different. So I think what I'll do is just get rid of that and type this out. And let's make sure we change this while we're at it. So this is going to be add tech modal. I'm sorry, tech list modal. Okay, so in our return, let's do an ID of tech-list-modal, because it's going to open when we click in the add button component, this right here. You can see tech list modal. This ID needs to match this ID. And then of course we need to add a class name of modal if it's going to be a modal. So we'll do modal content class, modal dash content, and inside here let's put an H4 and we'll just say technician list, and then we're going to have a UL with the class of collection, and then we want to loop through our text, but we want to make sure it's done loading. So what we'll do is we'll say if not loading, and then text.map. So basically we're saying if it's done loading, then let's go ahead and map through. And we'll say for each tech we want to output, for now let's just do an li with the tech first name, just to make sure this works. So tech.first name, and I think we'll give this a class of collection item, I believe is what we should do. All right, so let's just see if this works. We don't need the preloader. I'm going to get rid of that. I mean, if you want to keep it, you can, but it looks a little silly. So let's go back to app.js and let's bring this in. So we're going to import tech list modal from component /text/tech list modal, and just embed it down here. All right, let's try it out, see what we get. So if we click this top green one, there we go, technician list. Now we want each of these to be its own item. I think it's just better, better structure. Also, I want to have a delete, so we want to be able to delete the text as well. So let's go to our tech item.js file and say racf. And this is going to take in a prop, so we'll do racfp. Okay, it's going to take in the tech. So in here, let's destructure and say tech. And then down here, let's say tech. And that's going to be an object, so we'll do ptor. Now inside here, we don't want a div, we want an li with a class name of collection item. And inside here, we're going to have the first name and last name. Let's actually put this in a div. So we'll do div and then first name, our tech dot first name, and underneath that, still within the div, let's create an A tag, and we'll just have this go nowhere because we're going to add a function to this later. But let's give this a class name of secondary content. And secondary content just basically moves it to the right of the item. And we're going to have a delete button or delete icon. So let's do class name material icons, and I want it to be gray, so I'm going to give it a class of gray text, and let's say delete. Okay, now we'll go into our tech list modal and bring in our tech item. And then when we map through, instead of outputting an LI directly, let's output a tech item. And we're going to have to pass in the tech as a prop. And we're also going to use a key since this is a list, and we'll use tech.id. All right, so let's see if that works. If we click on this, we get technician list, and you can see it outputs each tech item. And no errors or anything. We just still have this date warning, but don't worry about that. All right, cool. So I think that we're all set in terms of just having our UI, just having all of our components. I think that what we'll do next is start to implement Redux so that we can make this a functioning application, because we're going to want to create actions to add logs, edit logs, delete them, add technicians, delete them, all that stuff. Search, all that stuff is going to go through Redux through our app level state. All right, so I'll see you in the next section.